One technique you want to use when reading or responding to an ACT passage is read the whole section first and then respond to the questions. If you try to do it sentence by sentence, it can be quite confusing. At the very least, you should read the sentence, start reading at the sentence that comes before the question, and end at the sentence that comes after. Let's take a look at the first section. Tiny exhibit, big impact. The first time I visited the Art Institute of Chicago, I expected to be impressed by its famous large paintings. On one hand, I couldn't wait to view painter George Seurat's 10-foot wide A Sunday Afternoon on the island of La Grande Jatte in its full size. It took me by surprise then when my favorite exhibit at the museum was one of its tiniest, the Thorn miniature rooms. So for 12, should it be for on one hand, no change? So I expected to be impressed by his famous large paintings. On one hand, I couldn't wait to view. Or for instance, I couldn't wait to view. However, I couldn't wait to view. Or similarly, I couldn't wait to view. Go ahead and respond and then come back to C. The answer is B, for instance, because it's giving an example of the things that the person was impressed by. Like he or she couldn't wait to be impressed by all of these things. So this is the only right answer here is for instance. 13, take a look at this sentence here. I couldn't wait to, so it's for instance, I couldn't wait to view painter George Seurat's 10-foot wide A Sunday Afternoon. Okay, so is it painter, comma, George's Seurat's? No comma here. To view painter George Seurat's 10-foot wide. That might make sense. Is it A, no change, painter George Seurat's 10-foot wide? Is it painter George Seurat's, comma, 10-foot wide? Or painter George Seurat's, no comma, 10-foot wide A Sunday Afternoon? Go ahead and select and then come back. In this case, the correct answer is D. You don't need a comma after describing what type of artist or he is. So I couldn't wait to view painter George Seurat's 10-foot wide A Sunday Afternoon. 14. It took me by surprise then when my favorite exhibit at the museum was one of its tiniest, and then semicolon, the Thorn miniature rooms. If you know anything about semicolons, you know that it separates two independent clauses. The Thorn miniature rooms is not independent. And if I say it, I like to pronounce out my contractions to know if it should be this version of its. So would you say of it is tiniest? No. So right away, I know that it's not A, no change. Go ahead and see whether it's B, C, or D, and then come back. So we know that we could eliminate A and B because they have semicolons, right? So it's between its tiniest, colon, or it is tiniest, comma. We can also eliminate D because we know that it is tiniest does not make any sense. You wouldn't say, it took me by surprise now when my favorite exhibit at the museum was one of its tiniest, the Thorn miniature rooms. So it's C, its tiniest, colon, the Thorn miniature rooms. It's presenting the Thorn miniature rooms. So I'm not going to provide you with answers to the rest of this Google form, but continue to follow along with me so you can see if you want my reading of these texts. Viewing the exhibit, I was amazed by the intricate details of some of the more ornately decorated rooms. I marveled at a replica of a salon, a formal living room, dating back to the reign of French King Louis XV. Built into the dark paneled walls are bookshelves stocked with leather-bound volumes. The couch and chairs, in keeping with the style of the time, are characterized by elegantly curved arms and legs. They are covered in luxurious velvet. A dime-sized portrait of a French aristocratic woman hangs in a golden frame. This exhibit showcases 68 miniature rooms inserted into a wall at eye level. Each furnished room consists of 3 walls. The 4th wall is a glass pane through which museum goers observe. The rooms and their furnishings were painstakingly created to scale at, and I continue this paragraph over here, but I divided it because I want you to answer questions 15 and 16. So go ahead and pause the video, answer questions 15 and 16, and then come back for a reading of the next portion. Okay, So the rooms and their furnishings were painstakingly created to scale at 1/12 their actual size, so that 1 inch in the exhibit correlates with 1 foot in real life. A couch, for example, is 7 inches long, and that is based on a 7-foot long couch. Each room represents a distinctive style of European, American, or Asian interior design from the 19th to 20th centuries. Respond to question 17. So pause this, respond to question 17, and come back. The plainer rooms are more sparsely furnished. Their architectural features, furnishings, and decorations are just as true to the periods they represent. One of my favorite rooms in the whole exhibit, in fact, is an 1885 summer kitchen. The room is simple but spacious, with a small sink and counter along one wall, a cast iron wood stove and some hanging pots and pans against another wall, and a small table under a window of the third wall. Aside from a few simple wooden chairs placed near the edges of the room, the floor is open and obviously well worn. Respond to questions 18 and 19. When you are done, press submit. If you are not satisfied with your score, please retake this form as many times as possible. Do your best and really walk yourself through each of these questions. These questions are modeled after the ACT, which are also modeled after your midterms. Your grammar midterm is going to be an ACT passage with questions just like these. So this is really good practice for that. Reach out, GChat me if you have any questions.